Okay, so now we move on to my number 5 zombie movie of all time, which is Re-Animator. Stuart Gordon's loose adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's Herbert West Re-Animator.
Well, it's one of Lovecraft's worst stories. It's one of the loosest adaptations of his stories,
right.
And it's also the best H.P. Lovecraft adaptation.
Also, and this might come up in scores later, is a good indicator of how good this movie is it shameless, the most shameless ripoff
of Bernard
Herrmann's score, and it's still okay.
Yeah, his score from Psycho. We mean,
yeah, fuck it. Who cares? Like, whatever.
Hey, this is great music. We're just going to use it again.
Yeah, and it's like, and they set the credits to it. Like, they don't hide it. It's all just dun, 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 dun. But it works because it has that like it's more. It feels more Danny Elfman in this movie as opposed to Psycho. It was more like scary and crazy.
Yeah, it does.
In this, it's more like the fun. It's like I didn't realize that score is fun. Like, and so that's why this movie wins. Is it's so much fun without ever pointing out that it's a comedy. There's some stuff like with the cat, which is really funny, but for the most part, it plays itself really seriously, but it's also ridiculous. Like I was talking about Dawn of the Dead, you get so gory that it can't be taken seriously, and they know it.
Right.
But they still don't make it a comedy. Like the guy walking around with his head is just great puppetry, and the whole interaction is so delightfully gory.
It is very funny at points, but at no point is it a horror comedy. It's just funny.
So
and
dry.
They could have very easily taken the easy route, going for cheap laughs, playing up the camp,
right?
Because we're a low budget movie. We look like
a step away from it.
Yeah, we look like a low budget movie. So let's just do an intentionally bad movie.
Right?
No, they try to make the best damn movie they can, and they succeed.
But Jeffrey Combs is hilarious in it. So much nudity.
Agreed.
Great movie. Number 5.
My number 5 is actually discussed this earlier a little bit. The original Night of the Living Dead by George Romero.
Nice. Did we talk about that?
Just in.
Oh, okay. Bringing it up, right?
Yeah, I brought it up when I talked about Day of the Dead, which was my number 6.
Right, of course.
And the birth of zombies, the birth of all zombie movies, the wellspring. You know what? I don't need to really talk too much about this.
True.
It's in the public domain. So, it's a Wonderful Life of horror movies.
Right.
You know it by heart, even if maybe you've never seen it, just because it's that movie where in other horror movies and characters are watching a horror movie, they're watching Night of the Living Dead.
That's very true.
So you've seen the little girl, munching, and you've seen like the gross naked woman zombie, and them chowing down on arms and legs.
Yeah, setting the chair on fire. These are always in movies. True.
It's iconic. It was really groundbreakingly bloody and disgusting at the time.
Which is so weird to think.
Yeah. It was also equally groundbreaking and off-putting to some that you had a black male lead co-starring with a white woman and bossing her around and stuff. So
True.
I only bring this up to say kudos to George Romero for picking the actors he did, which gave us a classic movie.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead is an absolute classic. So that's
my number 5.
Move into 4. And 4, after doing scores, basically, we'll get into that a little bit later, too. That's one you can check out elsewhere, or it might come out a little bit after this one. This moved up into my list is number 4, 28 Weeks Later.
28 Weeks Later.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I like 28 Weeks Later better than 28 Days Later.
Okay, and explain to me why. Because, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just explain to me why.
Oh, sure. 28 Days Later kind of gets on my nerves in a lot of ways. Like, I like it, but there's the things that always make me kind of not like it, which it follows all the zombie tropes down to a T. Like, every single one of them. And also, to do that, and for Alex Garland, the guy who wrote it, and Danny Boyle just still to this day like get upset and like that's not a zombie movie. It's like fuck you. Like you didn't make a zombie movie. You made some political allegory about blah. Like it just fucking bothers me so much. But anyway, 28 weeks later, you get extra love for making a sequel that's good.
Yeah.
Let alone a sequel that's better. Again, maybe that's just me. But it has Robert Carlyle, which is a better actor than was in the first ones. It never stops moving. Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, like it's filled with really good actors. And it just has this feeling of what the first one and the good New Age zombies of more being what they tend to kind of be is a metaphor for riots and unruly mobs, as opposed to slow encroaching death, which they used to be, or like the lower class rising up and whatever, all those kind of things. These are more like riots, and this movie feels like a citywide riot, and it's just like you can't contain it, and you just know that this part's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and the movie never stops, and like it never bothers to do anything. Like a movie we've talked about at length that recently came out, it defines its characters through their actions through the end, and then it ends. People die because they make a wrong step, not because they're the hero, they survive, or they're the this. If they accidentally step on an elevator wrong, they're got. Right. They're done. And so it has a really good quality, and the opening 10 minutes is fucking terrifying.
The opening sequence is phenomenal.
And adds such like real true moral questions and like damages a man's psyche.
And that music, the music for this movie is out of this world.
Yep, so number 4, 28 weeks later.
My number 4, Re-Animator.
Nice. Yep. There you go.
Ranked just a little bit higher than you ranked it. Okay. I love it for all the same reasons. Mm-hmm. Such a perfect blend of horror and blood and guts and comedy and fun.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jeffrey Combs has ever done anything as amazing as Herbert West.
Right. He was pretty good in Frighteners. A lot of people forget about that, but that was a good one.
But I like him in everything that he's in. He's become like this horror character actor.
Yeah.
But this is his signature role.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
If you're listening to this, I know you have Netflix. I know you do. Re-Animator is on there streaming right now.
Right.
So after we wrap up our number ones, go check out Re-Animator.
Number 3 is one that we've discussed a bit earlier, is Peter Jackson's Dead Alive. Now, Dead Alive, I almost wish was number 1. That's how... we enter the part of every time where these are all my number 1s. It's just which one is more number 1.
These are all... At this point, they're all 10 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dead Alive is... It almost ruined me. And I still do think it ruined me in combination with another movie, zombie movies. This is what ruined it for me. And I saw it when I was way too early in my horror watching. And it is still, to this day, unrivaled in its gore. You think, like Nate pointed it out perfectly, you think by what I'm saying, you have an idea of how gory it is?
No.
You don't.
No.
You'll start watching the first 20 minutes and you're like, oh, okay, wow, this is gory. Nope. Second half, nope. You still don't. The end is how this movie, you will be like, how did this movie not cost $100 million?
Yes, they required like half the water supply of New Zealand just to mix up the fake blood for it.
Insane. And something I really like about this movie is it's a joke that never really presents itself, that it's every zombie movie before it was people in a house keeping zombies out. This movie is a guy in a house trying to keep zombies in, which is really like clever.
It's a live action Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it is, and it's so zany and it is so cartoony.
Right down to one of my favorite moments, funniest moments in any movie ever the Scooby-Doo bit where he's trying to run on the tile floor, but it's so slick with blood that he's just running in place. It shouldn't work because it's a Scooby-Doo gag, but it's hilarious every time.
Yeah, it's like, this is a slight indication of how gory it gets, is at one point somebody's guts fall out. Not a big deal. The zombies in this movie, you cut off their head and it'll still come after you. If eye comes out, the eye will try and get to you. So this pile of intestines starts crawling around trying to kill people, and does kill people, and it will like show up out of drains and all that. And it's so funny because the liver and like spleen make the hands, and like his fucking asshole makes the face, and so it'll like fart in people's face and like use its liver hands to get. And it's the cutest puppet made out of guts
that you will ever see.
Yeah, that like hangs people, and it's just so gory. Like something will be happening, and you can look in the background, and even more is happening. It's just the ultimate.
Yeah, that's
massacre.
A great indicator. The comic relief is a walking pile of guts.
Yeah. And that's a slight indicator. And it has Kung Fu Priest.
Yeah. I kick ass for the Lord.
Amazing. You will not be prepared for this movie. Watch it as soon as you can. Peter Jackson, this is why he got to make the biggest movies of all time, is how inventive this movie is. For $3 million, it looks like $100 million worth of special effects.
It certainly does.
So, yep, number 3, 10 out of 10. Greatest of all time, Dead Alive, or Brain Dead, as it's also known.
But in this country, I think it's only
it's
ever
Dead
been...
Alive in this country.
All right, my number 3, 28 Days Later.
Nice. Well, see, there you go.
Yeah, I actually agree with just about everything you said about 28 Weeks Later. It's a superior sequel.
No one would argue that it's
it's great. This is 28 Days Later, though, is a great horror movie that just transcends into a great film. And I've heard a little of what you touched on earlier with Danny Boyle and Alex Garland.
Right.
Like, it's a zombie. And, as you know, I try to disregard anything that isn't on the screen.
I know, I do too.
So so all that aside, this is a great zombie movie. It also served as a resurgence for the zombie movies.
Right. It basically, there's another one that kind of started doing it, and I give credit for, but this is the movie that changed zombies. Like, Romero changed zombies in 1960. He changed zombies in 2001.
Now, these aren't Romero zombies, because they don't die and come back. They get infected with the rage virus. Mm-hmm. They're not slow and shambling. They're incredibly fast and coordinated. And they don't eat you. They puke blood in your face and turn you into one of them. Or sometimes you fall into a crowd of them and it seems like they're ripping you apart, but they pretty much exist just to perpetuate the virus. And that's all well and good, but they fill the role that zombies fill in movies.
Right. And its structure is zombie movies.
Yeah. But why I love it is it's, of any movie on this list, it is the most visually beautiful. I love watching this movie. This is a movie that I actually rewatch quite often. I love the visuals. I'm also a big fan of the character of Jim, for whatever reason. He's sort of a blank slate.
Right, yeah.
But I like Cillian Murphy anyway, but I think he's fantastic in this movie.
Right. Yeah, he's a good example of when the blank slate works.
Yeah. And it really makes it all the more impactful in the final act when he undergoes some form of transformation that I won't get into. So,
but still, okay, right on.
No. You couldn't. You're listening, so you couldn't see his dismissive shrug. I just, what was that about?
It's that shit that I've talked about before. Is people undergo that change, and then who's the real? And this movie even goes so far as to do that fucking bullshit where it's like, he's gotten so crazy by this point that you can't tell, like the main Naomi Campbell can't tell if he's one of the crazy zombies or not.
So, hold on.
That stuff bothers me so fucking much, man. It's personal. hate saying this stuff out loud because I don't.
But I mean, that's just. I mean, I know he's a guy, but that's like a real standard horror and final girl thing as they go through the transformation.
Oh, what?
I guess I still don't know what you don't like about at the end where he.
I don't like it specifically when it's done in zombie movies.
Oh, okay.
Because it's always the same. Like, I guess, yeah, it is kind of the final girl thing, but it's the whole idea that you take, a weak character who meets up with the band of ruffians who already know how to kill people. Rick is currently going through this and dragged out, so it's always this. And that's what I'm saying, it's personal. Like, shouldn't I be equally as upset as in every horror movie the girl always... It really just bothers me in zombie movies.
Okay, fair enough.
Give me something new by this point. I love the trope of final girl. I expect it. In zombie movies, I'm like, do something different already.
Well, I don't know if 28 Days Later does it differently or not, but I think it does it beautifully. So that's my number 3 pick for right now. But if we'd done this list 2 years ago, it probably would have been my number 5 or 6. Right after it came out, it probably would have been my 9 or 10. So check back with me in 5 years. I may have moved up a notch.
Cool. Okay, so back to what we were actually talking about.
Your number 2.
Number 2, one of 10 out of 10 absolute classic zombie movies is Night of the Living Dead. This movie I can still remember. One of my friends came over when we were in middle school. I fell asleep early. He stayed up with my younger brother. I woke up the next day, and it was what people always talk about. And I never really got to experience it. All they could talk about the next day was Night of the Living Dead. Like, supposedly, they just had the TV on, and we're just playing video games, because we had 2 TVs in our rooms or whatever. And Night of the Living Dead, like, came on PBS at, like, 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever station, without, like, an indicator that it was coming on, or what... And so they're just like, what the hell is this? And they didn't know what Night of the Living Dead was. We were all pretty young. And they were just so, like, scared by it and so, like, cool. And that a black and white, slow-moving movie from the 60s could take 2, like, 10-year-old boys away from their video games at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch it. And it still has that power. The beginning scene is one of the... It's scary, but it's one of the primal, creepy... like the top creepy, scary thing that I've ever seen, where he's there in broad daylight. He's just there and wanders up to him. That scared me so much because I was like, as a viewer, my alarm didn't get set off, and then he's just there. It's like, oh fuck, he would have gotten me too.
Right.
Like, it's not like stupid horror movies where it's like, motherfucker, run. Like, and it's just
Plus, it happened. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
It's like this movie just started.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're jumping the gun a little bit. Yeah, you got to tease zombies in the background first.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so classic for that. It's classic on a filmmaking, a historical, of course, too.
Of course.
But filmmaking, that it was made so cheap, and they didn't think they had anything. And so I love watching it. Like Evil Dead, it inspires me to want to make a movie, knowing that there was like 3 people behind the camera at any given time, like just trying to make this thing work. And the ingenuity, and yeah, maybe they stumbled into it, but it seems so deliberate. Like, how did you not know you were making a total classic? And the part with the little girl in the basement, the sound effects, the cutting to like the silhouette of the knife, all of that is still kind of upsetting. Like, it's freaky, and the noise that she's making, the noise the mom's making, that it takes a long time for her to die.
It's crazy. We're so spoiled with special effects and this and that and the other
that I still think
it's surprising when a black and white movie like gets under your skin. It's like, wow, that's disturbing.
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead, like Psycho. I mean, I like older movies like Night of the Hunter, but Psycho and Night of the Living Dead, I still think have not lost any of the power that they had the first day they came out to right now.
Total agree. Night of the Living Dead is a 10 out of 10 all-time classic.
Absolutely. So, now we move into number 1. Your number 2
is, just to cut you off at the knees and steal your thunder, my number 2 pick is Return of the Living Dead.
You fucking asshole. I knew it. I knew it. And especially because I knew... Damn it. Because you're going to put that bullshit at number 1, man. See, that's why I don't... Okay, go on.
Well, I guess we can both jump right into it. Because, do you want to say what your number one pick is?
Yes, number one is Return of the Living fucking Dead, man. Yeah. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
How is it... Okay, this is what I don't understand. Is your top 5 movies of all time, you picked Return of the Living Dead as your top 5 of all time. You did not pick Dawn of the Dead as one of your top 5 of all time. How does that now get over in this one?
Dawn of the Dead is the zombie epic. Dawn of the Dead is the movie where if you only get to see one zombie movie... Oh, you never seen a zombie movie before? Let me show you this one movie and explains everything you need to know about zombies.
Okay,
and it does it in an epic way.
Actually, that makes sense.
Return of the Living Dead, I watch it way, way more than Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
But also, having a background in horror helps you appreciate... I mean, Return of the Living Dead...
Okay.
And to get it back on course, Return of the Living Dead, my number 2, Mike's number 1 pick, is... endlessly entertaining. It doesn't matter if you've ever seen a zombie movie before or not. It throws out all the rules of zombie movies. These zombies were running fast way before 28 Days Later. These zombies talk.
Right.
They're not Evil Dead. They seem to just be really unfortunate people that have been brought back.
God, it's so good.
The only way to ease the pain is to eat brains. Yeah. Brains. This is it. Zombies don't say that. This is the one movie. It's become like this cultural sort of
it's like
meme.
The number one thing that is associated with zombies, and it doesn't happen in any other movie.
And people that quote it don't even know what goddamn movie it's from. It's from this movie. And it deserves all the credit that it's never gotten.
Yeah. I guess it is kind of amazing that, it's not more well-known.
You know, and it's a crime. Everybody knows Dawn of the Dead. Even if you haven't seen it, you're aware of it.
Exactly.
Or you've seen the remake. Maybe
that's kind of why I go against it a little bit, is because it is so that thing. But like Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead deserves to be acknowledged as a horror classic.
It's so funny. It's so scary. It's so inventive. It's just so clever.
Yeah.
Like, you never know what's going to happen next because this movie does not have rules. Like, it's not a mistake that the big theme, other than zombies and, just dead, everything's dead in it, so it's got a really cool look, is punks. This has such a punk attitude where it's like, I don't care that zombies shouldn't technically be able to talk, or that they never talked before, or that they're just a skeleton without lungs or voice box. I don't care. I want them to talk.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care about any of these rules. I don't care that Night of the Living Dead exists in the world of this movie. And it is just so much fun, and it never feels gimmicky. It feels genuinely scary.
Yeah.
And it happens. It's in real time. And it's intense. You don't know who's going to go. Filled with great lines. And it has also the first thing where people turn into zombies, but it doesn't do the zombie trope of it being what it always is they don't even know they're becoming zombies. And then when they do, that doesn't really mean anything to what zombie movies have been before. They're just dead, and now they're walking around. And then James Cameron's ending, it's great.
A recurring problem, not just with zombie movies, but with a lot of horror movies, is weak characters. Because, hey, we've got the gore, we've got a good bad guy.
Right.
Just throw some characters in there, give us a jock, and this movie has such wonderful characters. I mean, not to say they're all likable. Some of them are horribly irritating or bad people.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. They're just, it's a great cast of characters.
Right.
And you end up feeling something for almost everybody in the cast.
Right.
And you can't say that about too many horror movies.
Yeah, and I'm a big guy for character-driven. And this movie is character-driven. That's why you won't know where it's going, because there's no road signs. Like, somebody either runs this direction or that direction, and then the movie follows them. And this movie is all about character. Every one of the characters is extremely well defined visually. You would be able to pick them out in silhouette. They're acted very distinctly and very brilliantly by everybody. And also, every single zombie has personality and looks different than any other zombie before or since, and different from each other. And they talk in their half bodies, and Tarman is the greatest zombie of all time. Like, how does that machine suit function? He's just too cool.
Absolutely.
like there's almost a sweetness to the zombies in this one too, and that's the other thing is there's a sweetness to the characters that I think comes across as comedy, but it's so darkly funny. But there's like this weird sweetness to the whole movie, but it's really like dark humor too.
Yeah,
like,
and
die in this motherfucker.
Yeah, it's gross, and we talk a lot about the humor and everything. But hey, once again, this is it's not playing all for laughs. There's a lot of good scares in it too. In particularly when there's when there's like a charging horde of zombies that like runs into a pack of police,
right?
And just from a distance, you just hear all the screams.
Yeah, like they scream.
Yeah, and it's
screaming dead.
It's terrifying. It's great stuff. Okay, and my number one pick, as we already discussed, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And you know what? I guess I already did my bid on it. It's seminal. It's epic. It's everything that zombie movies have ever set out to be. So, Return of the Living Dead is way more fun. That's for sure.
Right.
But like my last 2 or 3 picks, everything past Day of the Dead, I guess my top 5 all make this primarily because they have such great characters that I enjoy watching and serve as an excellent foreground for the zombie background.
But see, that's probably another thing is I only really like Ken Foree and the blonde guy. Like, the other ones I don't even know their names.
Right.
Like, they're fairly useless in whatever. Like, I always find myself, like, come on. Like, checking my watch when I watch it is like, where in the bikers? Like, I thought that happened earlier. Like, and it just seems to take forever to get to the bikers, which finally makes it fun again. Because the whole thing of being in the mall... It gets old, but maybe it's like, I get it, and I really do like Dawn of the Dead. I'm just bitter about it. Because it gets number 1 instead of things that, come on, like, let's put some other stuff at number 1 by this point. But what I really actually like about Dawn of the Dead is the beginning. Like, going around that project.
Right, with the SWAT team.
Yeah, and the shotgun. Ooh, like, that stuff is pretty freaky.
Well, in
the mall, it becomes like a joke. It's brightly lit, and they're blue.
I don't use the term epic like most people do, just as like an adjective. Oh, dude, this movie was epic.
Right.
Other than World War Z, which is a bad zombie movie, very few movies show the scope. Usually, it's isolated. You're in the farmhouse. You're in the one particular area.
Right.
But they start out in the city. They go way out into the boonies and stop a couple of times to refuel. And everywhere they go. This is one of the few movies to really give a great sense of scope,
right,
to the zombie apocalypse, which he touches on in some of his other movies, but never quite as well.
Right. This is a movie like the original Halloween. I wish I could just get over I guess you could say bitterness, where it's just like I'm so sick of people saying this elevates the horror genre. Like anytime people talk about Halloween and Dawn of the Dead, they always have to say shit like it's not like Jason, or it's not like this, or it's better than all these. Like, don't talk good about a movie if you're gonna. The only thing you say is how it's talking shit about other movies. Say how it's good, and you're good about that. That's one thing I like about you as a critic. Is they always happen. Is the good reviews, and I'm worried Mad Max will be this too. When people give good reviews, all it is a review full of talking shit about most summer movies do this. Most movies do this. It's like, stop talking shit and tell me why Dawn of the Dead and Halloween are good.
Right.
So I just have a bitterness, and I wish that would go away like a hypnotist so I could watch these movies for what they are.
Probably won't be nearly as fun to talk to if you lose the bitterness, though, man.
Yeah. But see, there's sometimes where sometimes I don't have that. Like, we've talked about it. There are movies that are so, like Chainsaw Massacre, like Jaws, like Night of the Living Dead, where they still are number 1 because I still, fuck it, I can see.
Yeah.
And those are ones that I just kind of like, fuck you. Oh, God.
So that wraps up Zombies. As always, we'd love to hear back from you through social media.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, Twitter, FrightFlix with a CKS, or NateFlix with an X. Also, check out our blog, FrightFlix, podcast.weebly.com. Until next time, this has been The Horror. I am Nate.
And I'm Mike. See you later, guys.